Alright, well, this is episode 2 of the Orchid Chronicles. Thank you for tuning in. I figured I would start today with, well, today's whole video will be something actually pretty to look at, unlike last week when it was my face. Anyway, I'm going to show off my mature orchid collection as well as some of my other plants. Just a couple quick notes. One, I may or may not be moving. If I'm going to move, it probably will not be for several more weeks, if not months. I'm staying put for now, for a variety of reasons. Don't worry, it's not relevant to the Orchid Chronicles, but I figured I would just mention that, and also mention the fact that I brought the orchids that were outside at the farm here and just swapped out a couple of the plants that were taking up space here. So all of my orchids are with me at my house, other than the ones that are being tissue cultured, which next episode we'll focus on. So I figured I would start with my outdoor orchids on this relatively dreary, chilly fall day. Most of my orchids spend the summers outside. Some of these will be outside until almost Thanksgiving. So I have hanging here this very nice Dendrobium mohellanum. I thought it was supposed to be some other dendrobium. I ordered it on Amazon. I love dendrobiums. This is a very nice looking plant. It has a couple of the old canes that are almost shriveled, although this one looks like it's getting a khaki to it. It's just growing in moss. I have a couple of our native Goodyear pubescens, downy rattlesnake plantain. Story with these guys is my friend removed them from a property they were about to develop. I don't condone removing orchids from their native habitats, but these were going to be bulldozed over, so my friend removed them and gave them to me just to protect them. This is a native terrestrial orchid. These can stay outside all year because it's native around here. This is my Dendrobium nanochip. I really love this orchid. I bought it at an orchid show, and it had these beautiful white and purple speckled flowers, and as the flowers senesced, these speckles disappeared. It was really, really cool to see. I'm really hoping it'll put forth more flower stalks, although I probably should remove so you can see the old stalks. I've never really successfully pollinated dendrobiums. This is Dendrobium starburst. This is a very pretty flower. I'm glad it's getting a new stem to it. It got chewed up by something. This is Dendrobium hidden money. I bought this on Amazon. It looks like it had another stem, but then the leaf died off. I don't know what this plant is doing. It's kind of just hanging out there. This is another plant. It's an oncidium, twinkle pink perfusion. I saw the plant, not this particular individual, but another individual in bloom. This is a really nice looking orchid. I bought this at an orchid show. I spent, like $400 at this orchid show. It was amazing. Anyway, these are some of my Maxillaria, just Maxillaria tenuifolia, coconut orchid. You can see some of them kind of got chewed on by mice. Some of them are doing relatively well. I just propagated these from the greenhouse on campus. This is one of my 3 cymbidiums. I don't know where I put the label. I think, wait, is it right here? This is Sweetheart Sensation. It's like a yellow-orangey type cymbidium. It's a relatively large plant. During the summers, I keep it outside because cymbidiums need a lot of light. I fertilize it every 3 or 4 weeks with tomato fertilizer because it has a lot of phosphorus and potassium in it, which cymbidiums need to bloom. Cymbidiums are Asian terrestrial orchids. They don't seem to like heat, although ironically, we had a really freaking hot summer, and my cymbidiums did better outside than the lawns. Really cool. Just an amaryllis. This is one of several Cattleya and Cattleya intergenerics I have. I love how it's got some new growth on it right now. I really love the Cattleya type things. This is Happiness. I'm pretty sure I have a Cattleya that's carrying a seed pod pollinated by this plant. I'm pretty sure this was the red one. I had a pink one and 2 orange ones as well. This is my BLLRA, which is Brassia, and several other. It's a major intergeneric with some of the Oncidium type orchids. Very nice plant. I bought it from Logi's, which is a Connecticut greenhouse. I'm originally from Connecticut. It it's looking really nice, even though it fell over. I may add some fresh media when I bring it inside for the year. It seems to be doing fine. This is another Cymbidium here, My Darling Clementine. It's a fairly young Cymbidium, but I did have to repot it because it was kind of root-bound. It's doing fairly well, although it does look like it had a little bit of heat damage. It should be fine. I do like to keep as many things outside as I can during the summer, just because of how much light and photosynthetic activity it can get. Sorry, I'm just moving some of my air plants. I'll get into this in a sec. This is an Oncidium plant that I had bought from Amazon. On Amazon, basically, I'll buy the like 5 or 6 packs of very small young orchids that, wow, these air plants are really producing some good pups. Sorry, anyway, I'll buy the packs that have several young, mixed variety. Usually it's one Dendrobium, one Oncidium, one Cattleya, and some other thing, maybe a Vandaceous orchid or a Phalaenopsis. And those are really handy, cute little plants you can get, you know, several for a few dollars. And, you know, I don't mind getting something that's fairly small. This is a Cymbidium that I propagated from a piece from the greenhouse on campus. I hope Nick from the greenhouse isn't watching the Orchid Chronicles, otherwise he's going to know that I broke a piece off of the Cymbidium. To be fair, it was kind of getting ready to fall off of the pot anyway, because the Cymbidium was really encroaching on the edges of the pot. It's a vigorous terrestrial orchid that can become very cumbersome. I don't know if anybody's ever seen pictures of Cymbidium orchids, but they really can get humongous. I don't know the exact species or cultivar or hybrid name of this guy, but it does have a pretty nice looking flower, so it rooted and it's growing fairly well. These are some of my epidendrums. This is Epidendrum secundum. Pretty sure this is Epidendrum radicans. I have both species. Probably this is radicans. The epidendrums are from the greenhouse. I just took pieces off and they root relatively easily, and they make kekis like it's nobody's business. I don't know if you can see some of the kekis forming along this secundum here. Secundum tends to be a little more squat, whereas radicans will sprawl and get ridiculously tall. The colors of the flowers are also different, with radicans being a orange flower, whereas secundum has a purple flower. They flowered back in May and June, and they attracted several hummingbirds. Very nice plants. These things are kind of indestructible. Funny story, I had an extra radicans earlier in the year, and I put it outside in March, and it froze over, and it looked like the entire thing had died. The other day I looked at it, I don't remember where I put it, I think I gave it to somebody or threw it away. There were little sections of new growth popping up from the stem near the ground. It was the base of the pot. It was obnoxious. Got some Sansevieria, citrus. One of my favorite plants in my orchid collection is this Dendrobium kingianum. I bought this from Amazon, what now, a year and a half ago. It is a vigorous grower. It quickly outgrew a very small pot. It looks like something, probably a mollusk. I don't know if I mentioned I had a Horella retrocala that got eaten by a slug over the summer, but stuff does seem to eat the very young growth on this. I really hope this guy flowers. You can see some of these little undifferentiated buds and old keki scars. This thing will generally produce a few kekis a year, as well as producing numerous new canes. I think that the direction of growth is this way, because I planted it and it seems to be growing towards the side of the pot first. I don't know if the Dendrobium kingianum has to become pot-bound before it'll flower, so I'm going to let it get pot-bound in this. I'm also keeping it outside until about Thanksgiving time, because it is one of those orchids that loves the chilly weather. During the winter time, my Dendrobium kingianum and my Cymbidiums will usually stay right in this door frame, because it's somewhat chilly there, but it's not freezing cold. It's, you know, in the low to mid 50s, because they are seasonal orchids. Can't take frost, but they appreciate a, you know, frigid, somewhat cold winter period where they get almost no water. I actually don't water this when I bring it inside. I bring it inside, and then maybe the end of January I start watering it again, or then I'll put it back outside about April, because again, Dendrobium kingianum can tolerate 28-degree cold. I usually bring it in once it's, you know, like 35 at night, but I leave it out as long as I can. Coming along here, we have this. This is Wilsonia plum tree. This is one of the orchids I bought at the orchid show. I can't remember if it looks like I had an old flower stock. I think it was an orange color. Orange is my favorite color, so generally I get things that are orange in color, but I do also like a lot of diversity, and I don't mind getting things that are mysteries. But anyway, this is one of my other orchids that I'm leaving outside for the summer. It's probably not as cold hardy as the others, so it'll be one of the first to be brought in. This monstrosity is what I call my orchid tree. So in the wild, a lot of orchids are epiphytes, where they grow on the branches of other plants, particularly trees. And I bought this fake tree from somebody, and then I just started attaching epiphytic orchids to it. I have taken to using some moss, just because it seems that it does dry up pretty quickly if it's just the bare root. This is a vanda of some sort. I don't remember what it was. It was just one of those random Amazon plants. This is a very small young Cattleya. I think it was called Abandoned Hope or something like that. I don't remember though. Don't quote me on that. This is that rescue oncidium I talked about during my first episode, where they had it planted in soil, so it was getting waterlogged and rotting. So I took a piece off and I put it here. I do have another one indoors that's in a pot. This is another oncidium type plant. That pseudobulb is not looking too good. We may have these guys a little stressed out, but this is kind of what they would do in nature. I'm not too worried about it. I should probably wet them again. I just wet all this stuff. It's kind of still soft, but this stuff does dry pretty quickly. I'm trying to figure out a way to get it to stay moist for longer. This is one of my other Maxillaria that I just transferred to here. It did bloom while attached to this. Maxillaria seem a lot more resistant to some of this crap that you can do with them. Here I have one of my vanilla bean orchids. You can see that it's rooted in here, and now it's starting to wrap itself all around. There's an air plant in there. You can see that I have some phalaenopsis things. There is a dendrobium right here. Actually, that dendrobium is looking fairly nice. But, you know, I'm kind of just letting things go in here. It's kind of more of an artsy creative project. I think it's, you know, just an interesting idea. Anyway, over here, I have other orchids that I'm keeping outside. This is one of my two Cattleya intergenerics. Here's the other one. Let's see, what one was this one? This is Tricky Love, the POT, and then I think that one is Akatori or something like that. No, sorry, that's Akatori. I don't remember what that one is. I don't really want to poke through all this stuff, but they are carrying seed pods that I've kind of mixed with everybody, all the other Cattleya things. These are the seed pods I care dearly about. I really am looking forward to growing these. I was kind of agonizing over the seeds and how they would do, and then I was looking through the literature. Cattleya is one of the easiest genera to get to germinate. When I talk about tissue culture next week, I'll get more into that. This is Dendrobium nobile. My mother has one of these as well, and she keeps it in her office, and it looks like crap compared to mine. You can see the really nice fat green canes, because these have been outside in the heat and the sun all summer long. It's a nice, plump, healthy plant. My mother's does not look that way, and I keep telling her, hey, put it outside because dendrobiums like a lot of sunlight, and she's like, oh, but it's going to get wrecked outside. This thing has been outside since I got it, and it is fine. Okay, and some of these dendrobiums like Nobile and Kingianum and Dendrobium phalaenopsis here. By the way, this cane lost most of its leaves in the 2 weeks that I had it at my house before I brought it and put it under an LED light here from Connecticut. So I was in Connecticut when I got it, and then I brought it back here a couple weeks later when winter break ended. And in that time, in my low light, dim house, it lost most of its leaves. And then it got sunburned by the LED light, and now I've had it outside, and it's kind of just chilling out here. I don't generally find it alarming if an orchid is just sitting there not doing anything. If parts of the plant are actively dying off of it, it's something to be concerned about, but it's kind of just sat like this for, you know, quite some time, and I'm not that concerned about it because it still looks like it's fairly healthy. This is Blatilla striata. You can see it might be starting to die back for the year, but it's really got some good underground bulb growth. It made that new offset this year. Let me see. This is the I think this is like a intergeneric with zygobacillum or something in it. It has very pretty orange flowers that start off as a yellowy and then they turn orange as they senesce. I really do like this orchid. It's really heavy. It got some nice plump pseudobulbs. This one is doing fairly well. This is Oncidium caloea. This guy is doing much better than a year ago when I first bought it from Orchids Amore. I love Orchids Amore. They're a really great website. I'm not saying anything bad about them. What happened to it was kind of my bad. I had kept it in too wet of soil for a while, and I left it outside for too long, and so parts of it died back. Looks like stuff likes to nibble on it, but whatever. Part of the pseudobulb got munched on by a rodent, which happens. But this thing has so much more new growth on it now than it did a couple of months ago. I am really glad that this thing is perked up. A year ago, I thought it was going to die because it literally was one large pseudobulb that was crinkling and had a single leaf that was half dead, and now it's numerous new growths. And it seems like some of the Oncidiums do this, where they die partially, and then the pseudobulb that remains sends out 2 or 3 new growths that just do really beautifully. I don't know what the strategy there is. This is some Oncidium. It's a really pretty flower. Sad story about this guy. I got it from the flower show before I went to the orchid show, and I pollinated it with some pollen from this guy, and the seed pod developed, and then it started to like yellow at the base, so I removed it, and it was empty. It was really sad. I thought I would have some seeds, but I didn't. But anyway, this is a very pretty, it's like a yellowy with purpley splotched petals. It looks really nice. I might have a picture of it somewhere. I'll have to look. But, you know, some of these orchids are really cool for their floral appeal. This orchid here is my last outdoor orchid. I think it got a little dry, which is why it doesn't have many leaves, but there is still some very nice, healthy green growth down in there. You can see that it's starting to get some new growth. Some of my orchids will sometimes die down to the root system, and then the stem will pop up new stuff. This is Orstidella centrodenia, which is part of an epidendrum subgenus. It's one of the epiphytic epidendrum groups. The other 2 epidendrums that I showed you are terrestrial epidendrums. And now we're going to go inside and look at the indoor orchids. Hello there, car. Okay, anyway, the reason some of these orchids stay indoors is mostly because they're lower light requiring orchids and things that you shouldn't leave outside for the summer. Maybe they don't like extensive heat, or again, they don't like light, or they can tolerate being indoors all year round. You know, cattleyas and dendrobiums and cymbidiums are high light requiring orchids. Things like phalaenopsis and jewel orchids, which I don't generally like to say the word jewel orchid. Sometimes I have a hard time with the last syllables of words, like toad, jewel, and some other things. And when I say toad, people think I say toe, which is a body part. And sometimes when I say jewel, it sounds like I'm saying Jew, and I don't want people to be offended thinking I'm calling an orchid a Jew when it's not a Jew, and it's just an orchid that's doing its own thing and not following any Abrahamic religion and just being an orchid. And so I usually just refer to them as Ludicea or Mesodes or something like that, whatever it is, just because I don't like to deal with my inability to pronounce the common name properly. Anyway, these are some of my rescue orchids as I put them. These are Phalaenopsis that were clearance plants at Stop and Shop, and like some of them were like half dead, mostly dehydrated, because once they stop blooming, people think they're worthless. And then they put them on a dry, dark cart, and if somebody wants to pick it up for $1, they can. And so I picked up several when I first started my orchid collection. These were some of my first orchids that I've gotten, and it's been 2 years now, and they're doing much better. Look at all the extensive roots just popping out of these things. Maybe I'll repot them at some point. This is a Phalaenopsis that somebody gave me. This is what I call my Shaw's orchid. It's a Paphiopedilum, and I got it. It just finished with its seed pod. I'm trying to get the seeds to germinate. I took the pollinia from another Shaw's orchid. It's just a white calf. So I don't really know the exact cultivar. It's just kind of like a white flower with kind of like some green striations. It's nothing exciting, and it was pollinated with the same type of flower, but not the same individual. But it's just kind of a practice at tissue culturing paths. I'll get into that more next week. Over here, I have a couple of other things. This is another Phalaenopsis. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Phalaenopsis. It's not that I hate them. I just think that there are more exciting orchids besides Phalaenopsis. But, you know, this is kind of just the classic orchid. Really good if you're trying to do more advanced stuff besides keeping an orchid alive. No shame if you don't know how to keep an orchid alive. But, this is another Phalaenopsis of mine. I have another Phalaenopsis that doesn't seem to have recovered yet from dehydrating during winter break. I may just get rid of that guy. Couple other quick things. My Mesotes petola. I need to put this in a warmer place. I just moved it out of this little pot. It's kind of on a pot of more aerated media, and I'm gonna, oh, that's the seed pod that the flower stalk was senescing, so I just removed it. When the parking situation on campus dies down, I'll drive down to the lab with it so that I can flask it. I'm just going to put this ventilated bag over this guy so it has humidity, because it's what they need. They like fairly dry roots but high humidity, so there's a lot of moisture under this but not on it. So I'm hoping that kind of remediates the problem. It did have a lot more growth, but some of the growth kind of died, and I read that it's probably just too cold and dry in here for it. And then finally, I have another Phalaenopsis. These are my massive rescue Phalaenopsis that have gotten really big. I just removed the dead flower stalks from them. This is one of my rescue Phalaenopsis. I'm leaving this flower stalk on just for now because it has an ant colony living in it. I'm giving that to somebody. These are Ludicea discolors that I started from the greenhouse. I don't believe in karma, but I stole, well, not really stole, but I took cuttings of plants from the greenhouse, and now all my plants are infested with scale. Whatever, I get what I deserve. This is the other rescue Oncidium that was from a rotting plant that they treated as a terrestrial. This is Phaeus microburst. It's a massive terrestrial orchid. Doesn't need a lot of light, that's why it's inside. I really like the leaves. It's a very cool orchid. Another vanilla bean, and then this is Paphiopilodilum living desert crossed with Paph tonsum or something like that. I bought it on Amazon. I'm really hoping it flowers. It's a nice Paph. So that is my mature adult orchid collection. I will do updates when things bloom and pods set and everything, but that's about all for now.